You're new to Scrum and Agile. You might have passed your Scrum certification or not. This video aims to help you to become a great Scrum Master. It will provide you all the resources you need to become a great Scrum Master. Thank you very much for coming back to my channel, a channel where we talk about Agile and software development. And today's topic is really interesting. It is, how do we become a great, amazing Scrum Master and Agile coach? In this video, I will take you through all the aspects of becoming a great Scrum Master. I will take you through all the resources you need and where to find them. In order for you to become a great Scrum Master, this video is in 3 parts. There are 3 main pillars, 3 main aspects that will help you become a great Scrum Master. And firstly, I will go in the overview of these 3 pillars, and then I will take you through each of these in detail with links of where to find each of those things. Part 1, the first pillar of becoming a great Scrum Master, a great Agile coach, or great at anything, is that you need to invest time in learning about your topic. In this part, I will take you through the books and the articles that you must read and provide a brief summary about each of those books and articles and other locations for where you can gain the knowledge and information from. But remember, if you want to be a great Scrum Master, Agile coach, you need to invest in self-development. You need to continuously grow, you need to continuously learn, and you must allocate a time in a day, every day, you are learning about Scrum and Agile and other best practices. It might be the time you spend commuting from your home to office in the morning and on the way back in the evening. Earlier in my career, I used to work in central London, and every day I had an hour and a half commute into office and on my way back. And I found that time so productive. I had 3 hours each day where I could spend and focus on learning. I could study without distractions. And I found that really beneficial. These days, I work from home, but even though that I work from home and I've been doing Scrum and Agile now for over 14 years, I still, when I finish work at the end of the day, minimum I will spend 1 hour studying before I go downstairs and spend time with my family. Minimum 1 hour still after 14 years. That is my dedicated study time and investment time into myself, my continuous growth time for me. And that is outside of all of the learning you get when you're working with the team, when you are doing your day-to-day work. So what I'm saying is, allocate a time in your day where you continuously invest in yourself. And in part 1 of this video, this section, this pillar, I will show you what books you want to read, what articles you need to read to become a great Scrum Master, and what these books and articles and blogs actually cover. Part 2 of this, pillar 2, shall we say, of this framework of becoming a great Scrum Master is about practicing what you have learned. Practice and experience is the thing that will make you a great Scrum Master and Agile coach. If you don't practice what you have learned, there is no point in learning anything. And when you're working as a Scrum Master, you can't just sort of practice things. So in this part of the video, when I just go into detail about pillar 2, I will explain how you can practice and how you can experiment with the things that you're going to study during these books. Pillar 3, shall we say, or part 3 in this video is formal training courses on Scrum, on Kanban, and other Agile methodologies. And in this part of the video, I will talk about where you can get free professional training courses without paying a single thing. I'm not talking about these YouTube training courses or Skillshare. I'm talking about universities that deliver free trainings. So stick around to the end of the video to learn about where you can get free training courses. Instructor-led training courses, shall I say. So before we dive into part 1, please take a moment, click on that like button, and please subscribe to this channel because this will help this channel grow. So pillar 1, what should you study and learn? First thing I would recommend, if you haven't already done so, is to download the official Scrum guide. What is the official Scrum framework? Don't expect it to be really big and long document. It's only about 12-13 pages long. And you can download it for free. And I will give you the link in the description where to download it from. So read the official Scrum guide. Scrum is a light framework. And Scrum guide talks about what is part of the Scrum light framework. So very quick, very easy to read, and not that long. So download the Scrum guide if you haven't done and read that. The next book I recommend you, and that is if you are fairly new to Scrum and you do not have the in-depth knowledge about Scrum, is to read this book, Essential Scrum. And this book firstly talks about what is Scrum, and second thing which is really good about this, it talks about how you can implement Scrum. This is a really detailed book that covers Scrum and how to implement it. It talks about what Scrum Master role is, what is the product owner role, what is the team role, and how you run sprints, how you organize your backlog in a sprint, and how you can manage sprints. So highly recommend, if you're fairly new to Scrum, then you must read this. Highly recommended this. Next, this book that I'm about to talk about, it is, if someone said to me, what are your top 3 must-read Scrum books or Agile books, this would always rank number 1. So even though I'm putting in number 3, that is because this is the order I want you to learn if you're new to Scrum. But the importance of this book is that out of all of the books on Agile and Scrum, this would rank the number 1. This is how important and how must, to me, mandatory it is that you must read this book. And this is the book, Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. And this book is written by the co-founder of Scrum Framework, Jeff Sunderland. And you'll find the link to this book inside my description again. And in this book, it doesn't talk about Scrum Framework that much. In the appendix of this book, it does put a short version of Scrum Guide, shall we say, or high level what Scrum is. But this is more about what is the Agile mindset, what is the mindset you need to become a Scrum Master, or why should we do Scrum and Agile. This book, it talks about all of those principles of Agile and why are they important. It gives you examples of what happens if you do these and what happens if you don't do these. And he takes examples from various different industries, from car industry, from manufacturing, and it talks about those principles and the mindsets that are behind Scrum and Agile. So I highly recommend you all read this book, The Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. This is one of the brilliant and the great books on Scrum and Agile. Even if you're not doing Scrum, this book will still be beneficial and helpful for you. I know many people who are not using Scrum, who are not doing IT or any software engineering, but have used principles and the ideas from this book into their normal day-to-day life and at the workplace and have become really productive. This is more of a productivity book, agile mindset book, rather than a Scrum book. So I highly recommend that you should read this book. Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time. This is the number 1 book of all time about Scrum and Agile. The next book I want to cover, this would this book would sit on number 2 out of the top 3 books on Scrum and Agile. And this book, Scrum Mastery, From Good to Great Servant Leader. And the good thing about this book is that it talks about what are the things you should do to become a great leader, a great Scrum Master, how you should act and behave with the team, what are things you should do to become an extraordinary Scrum Master. It talks about every aspect of the role of Scrum Master and what a normal person would do, what a good Scrum Master would do, and what you should do if you want to be a great Scrum Master. It gives you examples of things that you should do as a great Scrum Master. If you're new to Scrum and you want to go and get a Scrum Master job, then before you go for your interview, I recommend that you must have read this book, because this will help you ace your Scrum Master interview question. No matter what they ask you, you can use the knowledge from this book to ace that question, especially when it's around behaviors and practices about Scrum. So I highly recommend. So this is number 2 on my all-time great Scrum books. I'm quickly whizzing through all of these books. And if you are interested in learning more about what is inside each of these books, the top 10 lessons from these books, then you can always go to my blog post where I've done a detailed review on each of these books. So the next book I have, again, a really must read for a new Scrum Master, is the Professional Scrum Master Handbook. And the great thing about this book is that it takes you step by step what you should do every single day as a Scrum Master. It talks about how you need to prepare for your sprint reviews, how you need to prepare for your sprint retrospectives, how you need to prepare for your daily scrums, what are the things you need to do for your daily scrums, how you need to calculate your velocities, all of those things. So it is a step-by-step guide that you need to do to be a Scrum Master. And again, this is one of my all-time favorite books as well. So really, really recommend you read this book. So you are now a Scrum Master and you are working with a team and you have user stories. We in Scrum, we have nicked a practice from extreme programming. User stories are not part of Scrum. That's something we in Scrum have nicked from extreme programming, and we call them user stories. That's how we document our requirements. But how do you write user stories? What is user story? What are the best practices for writing user stories? And if you need help with writing user stories and explaining what user stories are to your team, how you should write them, what is the process of writing them, what is a good user story, then I highly recommend this book to you. User Stories Applied. User Story Applied. Mike Cohen, he is one of the great Scrum and Agile authors. He has written many books, and I recommend that you read every single book that he's written. And he has a blog called Mountain Goat, and I recommend that you should subscribe to that as well. He sends the weekly newsletters. They're full of wisdom and knowledge, and I love them. So highly recommend you to become a Scrum Master. You don't need to be technical. And even if you are a technical, it doesn't mean that you understand all of different concepts and software development best practices. And what is extreme programming? So in Scrum, Scrum is a really light framework. As I mentioned, it's about 13-14 page, the Turtle Scrum Guide. And we nick quite a lot of practices from other frameworks, especially from extreme programming. This book, and you can get a free version of this online in PDF format. It's freely available. This book, Scrum and XP from the Trenches, it's a fairly old book. It is quite outdated, but I still recommend because it talks about what extreme programming practices you must use in Scrum and how to use them. It talks about what is CI, what is CD, how you should embed extreme programming in your Scrum practices. So if you are non-technical, highly recommend you read this book. And it will give you the background to extreme programming and the practices that you need to embed into your Scrum teams. In order for you to be a great Scrum Master, it's not about just knowledge of Scrum and Agile, it's also about developing yourself, your communication skills, your interpersonal skills, your emotional intelligence, how you have a conversation with people. So here are some books that I want to recommend that are not related to Agile, they're more generally self-development books that you must read. The first one is How to Win Friends and Influence Others. This book is like 70, 80 years old, but it is one of the top rated on the Times list as a business book. Highly recommend. It talks about how to deal with people, how to influence them, how to convince them, and how to deal with those tricky people. Next one, Crucial Conversation, is how do you have conversation with people when the stakes are high? What is a crucial conversation? It is when the stakes are high, when the emotions are high. And soon as your emotions go high, or anyone's emotions in the conversation go high, then two things will happen. Either they will become offensive, or they will become quiet and they won't respond. And both of those signs are that the conversation is going nowhere. So this book is a really good book. I highly recommend. It's talk about how can you take any conversation, no matter how tricky it is, how to structure it, what are the things to look out for, how to make your conversation safe, all of those discussions. So highly recommend this book. And this is a fairly old version of it. If you have O'Reilly, then there is the latest version available there for free. And yeah, this is another book I highly recommend. Another book that I like is this one, Be Indestructible. You can sort of mention some of the tips from this book when you're coaching your team members. You can implement in your team sort of thing. So another book, if you get a chance to read it, highly recommend. As a Scrum Master, the other thing that you need to know, understand is testing. So highly recommend this book on more agile testing. Really useful, must read for you as well. I find that most teams struggle with the testing. We as Scrum teams, even though we were meant to have cross-functional people, we all lack testing resources. This book will help you how to structure your team and how to do testing, how our team members should be T-shaped people, and how to do testing. So I highly recommend this book as well. When you're doing continuous learning, it's not just about reading books. I highly recommend Mike Cohen's The Mountain Goat blog. I will put a link to it. He is a great author of many agile books, highly experienced agile coach, runs all of the Scrum and Agile training courses. He's a trainer as well. So I highly recommend his blog, and I'll put a link into it. And sign up for his newsletter as well. They contain so much in-depth knowledge. I will also take this opportunity to recommend my blog as well, because these videos, they are more focused about Scrum. My blog is more expandable. It discusses other things like should we be doing nightly builds or continuous deployment? What is continuous deployment? Um, and all of other concepts about Scrum, Agile, and software development, but best practices. So when you get opportunity, the link to my blog is in the description. Go there, explore that on a regular basis as well. And I'm sure you'll find a useful article, a beneficial article that you might like on there as well. And I'll regularly update that as well. Okay, let's move on to the pillar two. We have talked about so many resources for self-development, but let's talk about taking your learning and putting it into practice. So when you are putting any of these learnings into practice, then firstly, what you should do is that you should always set this as experiment. When you are doing anything with your team, always introduce it as experiment. And when you are about to do experiment, then you must set a time frame. You say, we will try this for 3 sprints. And after 3 sprints, we'll see how it goes and if you want to roll back. introduce it as an experiment to your team that you can implement in your team. And if it is successful, if the team members like it, you implement and you continuously use those and embed them in your team. And if it fails, then you can give up. The other thing you want to do is that whatever you learn in these books, talk about it with your team members. In a sense, any new ideas, have a discussion in your one-to-one with them. And also I recommend that you get a coach for yourself, a mentor for yourself as a junior Scrum Master who you can share your ideas with. You can say, okay, I've read this practice that we can implement in our team. What do you think about it? And then you can have those technical discussions, and he or she can give you real life examples of when and how this would be brilliant and how this would fail. And you can run simulations with him as well. And also, Scrum is not about all of these practices. Unfortunately, part of your role as Scrum Master is to use the tools that you need to do every day, like Jira or Azure DevOps. So what I highly recommend is that you get yourself familiar with Jira or Microsoft Azure DevOps, is that is the tool you're using, or Trello, and experiment there. Build a dashboard, build a report, get the metrics that you want to share with your team before you try this experiment. If you're saying that we want to run this experiment, then what are the metrics currently and how do you expect them to change at the end of it? So familiarize yourself with Jira or other tools that your team is using. But if your team is using Trello or something else, I still recommend that if you're looking to move on to a different Scrum role, that you get better understanding of Jira. Most teams, I would say 90% of teams that are doing Scrum these days use Jira. And after Jira, the next one is Microsoft Azure DevOps. So these are the two big vertical tools that are being used in industry when it comes to Scrum. Wow, this has become a long video, but quickly moving on to pillar 3. So pillar 3 is about doing professional Scrum and Agile training course, but they cost money. Those certifications, Scrum certifications, what, 1,500–1,600 pounds? So they are expensive, but fortunately, there are some easy and cheap places where you can do Scrum and Agile training. And the main thing about this is that you are there to learn. So one of those sites is a site called Coursera. And I'm an Apple iPhone and iPad user. And for iPhone and iPad, they do have an app that I always use. And I will share the link to Coursera below in the description. And you can get all majority of these professional courses for free. So you have logged into Coursera and you have come to this page with the Explorer. Let's search for a Scrum course. Let's see what is available if you type in Scrum. Okay, you can see all of these Scrum certifications and other Scrum related courses. For instance, Scrum Master certification. This one. This is again covers all of these things. And it is a 3 months course as well. Then we go Google project management, how to create a Jira project, Scrum Master, Scrum Master certification, Scrum methodologies, introduction to Scrum training, Agile software development, university, Agile leadership. And for instance, if we search for Kanban, I'm pretty sure we will get similar level of courses on Kanban as well. And I said that I was going to tell you a free site, and you're thinking all of these courses must cost you money. But let's give it a try. So when you are on any course in Coursera, and this is for majority of courses, not all of them, because this is a online university sort of courses. You can do MBAs and everything, and they cost a lot of money. The majority of courses that you will be looking at, you can do a easy option. So if you look at enrollment, you will get this option of only doing audit. And when you click on this option, it means that you will get all of the course materials, all of online lectures, all of the reading material for free. And you can go through all of that. Unfortunately, you won't be able to do any assessments. And when you finish that, you won't get no certification for this. If your aim is to gain that knowledge from those courses, then you can get all of these for free. And when it gets to certifications, $49 is not much if you compare to other Scrum certifications like Scrum Master certification, which when I did it was around £1,200-1,300. This is fairly cheap. So if you are a person who likes to learn by instructor-led courses, you find them useful, then I highly recommend this site as well. Thank you very much for making it so far through this video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe this video. It will help us grow this channel, and please provide feedback on how we can improve this video. And very soon we are going to be uploading a video on which is going to be talking about the Scrum certification. If you're watching this video a couple of weeks or months after it was uploaded, then I'm sure if you go into this channel, you'll find that video where I talk about what Scrum certification do you need to get, because there are so many different Scrum providers and they are not all the same, and they are not all industry recognized. So if you want to get a Scrum certification that is recognized by the industry, that will actually hold any value, then watch out for that video. Till next time, thank you very much.